Hey guys, it's Fibro Friday if you're watching this, and as you can see I'm outside and you're probably thinking, why are you outside, Lily? Well, if you've been paying attention to my Instagram stories, I said that this Friday I was going to talk about exercise and that sort of stuff because it's something that we don't tend to talk a lot about when we have chronic illness and chronic illnesses, but it's very important for us just to stay healthy. And particularly now that the weather is improving, I think it may be a good chance for you guys to have something to try out or to learn about and maybe put in practice as the world is opening, hopefully, or whatever you may be, and that sort of stuff. So today I'm probably gonna have two videos. The first one is gonna be with what you see. It's just me talking about just generally exercise and fibromyalgia and chronic pain and chronic illness and things that you may want to learn about it or that you may not know about it, and just things to consider, general pointers, tips, that sort of thing that I normally do. And there will be a second video, believe it or not, where I may introduce you to some useful exercises. Yes, me. I'm not a pro. Please set your expectations very low. This is not a yoga class or a fitness class or anything like that. It's just me talking about things that have helped me and that are good for fibromyalgia, but obviously also depends on your mobility, your pain, and things like that. So it will vary, and you know, as usual, this is non-prescriptive. It's not a one-size-fits-all because that's not what we're here for. But also, I'm on the notice of exercise and well-being and the fact that the weather is nice. For those of you who are suffering from mental health issues, it's really a good chance for you to get out there, get some of that vitamin D, which is actually very important, not just for fibromyalgia and for your inflammatory markers, but for your general well-being and mental health. And exercise has a huge, massive impact in how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the world, just everything in general. So just getting some exercise of whatever type may be is a good idea, whatever is it that you may be suffering with or whatever. So I'll get into some of the specifics and some things to consider that a lot of people simply don't think about. First of all is the conditions under which you're doing exercise. A lot of people decide to go to the gym to do their routines and things like that. And I don't know for you, but I found for me and a lot of people with chronic pain in general and chronic fatigue, the gym is simply not a viable option because you may not be able to go as regularly as you want. You know, it's great having a gym routine and saying, I'm gonna be there Monday, Wednesday, Friday, killing my abs for 2 hours. And then you have a flare and you're dying on your sofa, and therefore, well, it all goes out of the window. It doesn't matter. So I find that having a gym kind of puts unnecessary pressure into people who want to, you know, become active and improve on their well-being, and particularly for those of us with pain and fatigue, it's just not the most manageable way of doing it. And of course you have the monetary issue there to consider, and it's just too many things to balance into one single plate, which is a lot. So I don't get along with the gym. I don't go to the gym. All of the exercise I do it either on my own, outside, at home, whatever, or I do it as part of an activity. Because, and this is again a very important aspect of people with fibromyalgia and with other illnesses, is that if you are doing your exercise at the same time than taking part in some form of social activity, you're feeding off two very important dynamics that are crucial really for our general health. So you're getting that sort of sociable aspect out of it, but you're also getting the well-being aspect out of it, which is very important. And in a way, one thing may help you deal with the other one. So, you know, it's just something to consider. So I do a little bit of badminton, as you may know. Before the pandemic started and all of these things were closed, I used to do climbing as well. I do some skating, but my skates are unfortunately broken, so I've not been able to do skating for a while. And I used to do swimming, but unfortunately, some of the climatological conditions here in the UK really make swimming very difficult for me at present. Because as some of you may know already, one of the crucial things that can really set off fibromyalgia really quickly is drastic changes in temperature and humidity levels and things like that. And a lot of swimming pools don't really cater for that sort of balancing the force, if you like. So it's just not something that works out for everyone with this illness. So if it works for you, great, because swimming is actually very gentle, it has low impact, and it's perfect for fibromyalgia and for most people with chronic pain, because you're not adding to the pain, you're sort of soothing it. But you know, if you are struggling with the same issue that I am, then there you go, that may be something for you to reconsider and something to just keep in mind. Sorry, the wind keeps on blowing my stick down, and therefore this may require a little bit of adjustment. But anyway, it's the problems of being live in the outside world. And other than that, yeah, a lot of exercise at home and things like that. All of this essentially means that you need to be doing exercise in a space that is comfortable for you and that suits your needs. Okay, so that's also the reason why gyms are not always the best option, because, well, they're there for everybody and they may not necessarily be catering for you in specific. I mean, if you can afford a personal trainer, great, but you know, let's face it, most people don't have that kind of money. So the best advice that I can give for anyone with fibromyalgia trying to get into some form of exercise routine and something like that is make sure that the space where you're doing your exercise or your activity or whatever it is works for you, and you don't have to compromise, because you still need to feel safe, particularly if you haven't done this in a very long time. It needs to be a safe space for you. It needs to be a space that's not gonna make you feel worse, and therefore that is gonna ensure that you're not having sudden triggers, sudden flares and things like that halfway through the exercise, which is not something that is very easy to control overall. So that's the first pointer. Second pointer, wear appropriate clothes. And I don't just mean gym clothes for that. I mean clothes that actually meet certain criteria and that are gonna help you keep the illness under control. For example, these are very breathable, they are stretchy, and although they end in like a little sort of rivet thing at the bottom, they are non-constricting. If you watch my video about clothes, you know how important it is not to feel constricted in your clothes. Feel like you're comfortable, make sure that the clothes are comfortable, that they are not itching you, that the seams are not in weird places. This doesn't have any seams whatsoever, which is great. Make sure that it is breathable for various reasons. If it's breathable, your skin will feel less sensitive, which means you will be more comfortable yourself, but also because if it's breathable and you start sweating, you will not have such a struggle with the drastic change in temperatures, which is very important. On that front, I always say that it is better to prepare for a much warmer scenario when you're doing exercise than a colder scenario. Why? Because you will warm up as you're doing exercise, you will generate extra heat, but if you start putting too many layers when you're doing exercise and then you become overheated, your exercise is probably going to be interrupted, so you can deal with that flare. So go lighter rather than over the top, if that makes sense. And most importantly, if you're doing something that will require you either walking around or doing something like that, make sure that your trainers are appropriate for that sport. I shall remind you, the amount of impact that ankles, knees, hips receive over time can be quite massive, and particularly if you're not thinking about this, the wrong type of shoes could cause you more problems as you move on than any favors. So just really assess that your general gear works for you and keeps you comfortable and makes you happy. Stay hydrated. I don't necessarily just mean water, but I also mean things like juice or protein drinks or things like that. And usually I would say those are better than just straight up water. Why? Because you need hydration, but you also need to make sure that all of the things that you're exuding, like your minerals and things like that, are being replaced. We spoonies need minerals more than most people, so you don't want to be leaving yourself completely empty and then making yourself vulnerable to some form of crash, or not just sugar crash, but you know, being dehydrated, not because you haven't drank enough water, but because there is literally nothing in your system and you're just flushing everything out. So those are some things to consider. Maybe keep a light snack with you, particularly things that are slow release, biscuits that are designed for slow release, energy bars, you know, things like that, because you will need them. And at the end of the day, is, like I said, is making this work for you. So if that means you need to do your exercise in 3 blocks during 1 hour instead of 1 hour straight, and that means every 20 minutes or every 15 minutes you just have a sit down, you have your juice or whatever you're drinking and a snack, so be it. You know, no one is counting you on how many minutes you've clicked on, or it's about doing the right exercise for you. Other things to consider is obviously if you're prone to injury or things like that, make sure you have the right gear for that as well. Make sure that you're warming up and make sure that you're doing the right exercise for you, because not all of us have the same physical capabilities, and measuring your physical ability with someone else's is simply just not a good idea. So this may mean that you have to go through a lot of trial and error. That's fine. It's sad, it's annoying, it's irritating, but it happens, and at the end you will find something that works for you, and that's all that matters. But in general, and just some general pointers of exercises that you may have not considered, and again this very much depends on your mobility, is you need to do something. And I mean you need to. Why? Not just because of mental health issues like I said, but exercise helps our immune system overall. Exercise helps us control pain and fatigue. So normally the first few times that you're gonna do it, you're gonna feel like absolute crap right after it. Doesn't matter if it's a minute, an hour, 2 hours. I would say, ease yourself into it. Don't go for like a full-blown training session on your first go, because that will probably just be bedbounding you for the next couple of days. Ease yourself into it. 15 minutes exercise is perfectly okay. If you do 15 minutes every day, or even if it's a couple of times a week, that's more than nothing. So just keep that in mind. Learn to use your energy, learn to pace yourself whilst doing exercise, and also remember that exercise generally means anything that is giving your body some form of use. So if you like walking, just go for a longer walk, or try power walking if you can do that. If not, just go for a gentle walk, but make sure that you are moving, make sure that you are doing things. And one thing that I'm gonna do, and it's mostly what the exercises are going to be, is stretches. Stretches are exercises, okay? We seem to think that they're only good for you to warm up, so that then you can do a much heavier exercise. Well, yes, they help you warm up, but that's not just the point. That means that your body is already ready to do whatever it is that it needs to do. And even if you just do them at any point during the day, when you just have something else to do, you're gonna feel a lot better, because that means that those muscles, those joints, those tendons and everything else have gotten a bit of movement. That also helps with our inflammation markers, and in general they're gonna feel better. You're gonna get your blood flow running a lot smoother, and that all is generally gonna help you feel better overall. So a lot in there to unpack. I'm sorry. I know it's a lot, but that's what we're here for today. So next video, which will be up in just a couple of moments, will be just some general exercises that you could probably do at home. I'm not gonna be using anything super fancy, and literally it's just my clothes. I have a towel because I sometimes get a bit funny with textures, things like that, and just hydration, and I have more water in my bag in case that it gets quite sunny, because it's freaking hot today. So it's nothing special. I could be doing this literally in my bedroom, but I thought, sod it, let's go outside and enjoy some of the sunshine. So I'll be back in a sec with some more exercises, and I'll see you soon.